I look at whatever my options are and I ask myself which ones of these is a seed and which ones of these is a weed. Right. Because the incredible thing in our garden is that weeds end up looking like seeds and can confuse you. When you respond to positivity in your life, it just increases. When you respond to the negativity in your life, it just increases. And so trying to get someone to like you and defend yourself and control how they feel about you, it wastes and drains so much energy. And you could use all that energy for the people that love you. You know who you are when no one's watching. Like what you do when no one's watching, that's who you are.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 and 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 and 9. This one's for my top 10.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. So get ready to uncover who you really are, increase your attraction, and don't waste your time with Jay Shetty and my take on his top 10 rules of success to give you the confidence, motivation, and belief that you need. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule #1. Unweed your garden.
Every morning I sit and I look at my intentions to do anything. So whether there's a new deal on the table or there's a speaking gig that I've been invited to do or whatever it may be. And in your life, it can be anything, whether you're starting a new business, you're writing a book, it may even just be an Instagram post for whatever it is. And I look at whatever my options are and I ask myself, which ones of these is a seed and which ones of these is a weed? Right. Because the incredible thing in our garden is that weeds end up looking like seeds and can confuse you.
100%.
So often that thing that's giving you ego and pride and fame and control and power looks like it's amazing.
Right.
But actually it's just strangling you.
100%.
So every day what I'll do is I'll look at the garden of my life and I will try and unweed my garden. So I'll look at everyone and be like, why am I doing that? And ask myself, why am I doing that? And if the answer is not love, compassion, empathy, growth,
right,
personal push, sacrifice, service, if the answer is the opposite, greed, money, power, fame, if those are my reasons,
right,
then I have to take that weed out.
100%.
I have to pull it out because if I don't pull it out, that weed's gonna keep growing.
Right.
And one day it's gonna be so big,
right,
that I wouldn't even have seen it.
Rule #2, uncover who you really are.
There's a thought that I love which says, you know who you are when no one's watching. Like what you do when no one's watching, that's who you are.
Yeah.
So we all know when we're alone whether we choose meditation or Netflix. Like we know when we're alone whether we choose, for a lot of people out there, whether they choose reading books and learning or pornography, right? You know when you're alone what you choose.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps you overcome your ego, because when we reflect on ourselves when no one's around, that's when we're truly uncovering who we are. One of the points, that, and I'm getting to the ego point, but, and I loved what you just said now, that if you sat here and said, I have no ego, you can't say that. And I agree with the same for myself. If I sat here and said I had no ego, that would be a complete lie. And there's a beautiful story of Benjamin Franklin, that he had his 13 precepts before he died. He had 13 qualities that he wanted to attain in life before he passed away. They included things like integrity, simplicity, honesty, virtue, etc. So these were his 13 set. And at the end of his life, he was asked, which one did you not attain? And he said the 13th one. And they said, what was that? And he said, humility. And that, for me, almost means that he conquered it, because, you know, he was able to accept that he didn't conquer humility.
That's almost like how he ended it.
Yeah. And I was like, this is amazing, you know? And it's true story. And 13 Precepts are great. Read the book. It's there, Benjamin Franklin's book. And so the reason why I'm sharing that story is because the way you overcome your ego is to recognize that you're simply a channel or an instrument. When you recognize that you're an instrument, and whether you believe in the universe, whether you believe in power, whether you just believe in mentorship, you recognize that everything you're giving is because someone's given to you and someone's given to that person. And therefore you're becoming a vessel, an instrument, a vehicle for the greatest powers in the world, and just being a channel for that. And that allows you to feel two things. One thing is you feel liberated because now it's no longer your burden. It's not like, oh my God, I've got to be the most amazing person in the world. It's not like, oh my God, it's all on me. You're actually like, wow, actually, yeah, I learned from that teacher and that teacher and that teacher and that teacher. And now I'm just a vessel for everything that I've gained. And I'm able to channel it and transfer it to others. So it liberates you from the pressure and the burden of like, oh my God, like everyone's expecting me to give the best talk of my life. Like, but when you realize that you're not, you're just a channel and you're just a transfer mechanism. And the second thing that it does is that it allows you, whenever your ego gets in the way and says, yeah, we're doing well, like I did that, you start recognizing and you get perspective and gratitude on the fact that, no, actually, I'm going to pass this, whatever good's happening in my life, pass it to my teachers, pass it to the people that shared it with me. Because there is no one who is self-made. We talk about self-made millionaires. There is no one. That word shouldn't even exist.
Yeah.
Because none of us are self-made. I'm not self-made. You're not, and that's not a.
It's a cool term though.
It's a cool term,
but it's definitely not true.
Yeah, and it's not true, and it's not a diss. Like I'm not criticizing it. This is not like a slight dig at anyone for using the terminology at all. All I'm saying is just that if we all truly reflect, and I don't want anyone watching to think I have to be self-made, because if you have to be self-made, then you're going to have to self-fall too, right? And everything will be self, and you'll fall on your own and you'll rise on your own.
Rule number 3, help others.
The stories acclaimed to Alexander the Great. It could be anyone, and I would, if that's not true, then I would just listen in and think of any great warrior or any great emperor or someone who achieved a lot in life. And so the story is of when he's on his deathbed. And when he's on his deathbed, it's said that he had 3 wishes. And those 3 wishes, when his ministers asked him what he wanted, was that he wanted him to be carried by all the doctors to his funeral. So he wanted his coffin and his body inside the coffin to be carried by all the doctors, the best doctors, to his funeral. The second thing is he wanted that path to be laid with everything that he'd gained in life, all the jewels, all the riches, all the money, everything. And the third thing he wanted was that he wanted his coffin to be left open so that you could see his hands on either side, right? And the ministers looked at him and said, that is the most morbid thing in the world. Like, this is your last wish and those are your 3 wishes. And they said, why are they your 3 wishes? And Alexander the Great explained, he said that I want the best doctors in the world to carry my body because I want the world to see that even the best doctors in the world can't save you from death. He said, I want the path to my funeral to be laid with everything I've gained to show people that you can't take anything with you. And he said, I want my hands to be outside of the coffin to show that we come into this world empty-handed and we leave this world empty-handed. And that's one of my favorite stories, and what I try and imbibe in my videos and live by is that I believe that we all have a finite number of breaths and we all get an opportunity to make them count. And there's a beautiful thought by Maya Angelou where she said, people will forget what you did, people will forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And for me, that's what we've got. All of us have this limited amount of time, and all that's going to be remembered is how we made people feel. And so for me, my videos are all about how am I making people feel. If I can give people a feel of self-worth, a sense of personal growth, a sense of confidence, a sense of self-esteem, whatever it may be, I want to use my living time doing that.
Rule number 4, increase your attraction.
We all face distraction. We all experience distraction. We're all plagued by distraction. But often we think that the opposite of distraction is focus. We think that we need to become more focused. We think that if we're focused, we'll feel less distracted. We feel that if we're able to draw our energy in a certain direction and force ourselves to absorb in an activity, then we won't be as distracted. But this is just not true. The opposite of distraction is actually not focus. The opposite of distraction is, wait for it, attraction. What we really need to do is increase our attraction. When we are attracted to something, we're naturally focused. We're naturally able to be present. We're naturally able to bring our attention and our energy to that task, that project, that person. When we're distracted and don't have that attraction, we're naturally all over the place. We end up feeling lost, confused, and end up procrastinating. But no matter what you do, no matter how much you chase your passion, passion and live your purpose, there will still be things you have to do on a daily basis that you don't find interesting. And naturally, you will feel unfocused and distracted. For that, ask yourself this question. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? And you'll find the mind will start to become attracted to that activity, task, or even that person.
Also, if you want to have more confidence, check out my 254 series. It's free. The link to join is in the description below.
Get that goal, get that dream, and I've just been telling you, drive it and drive it and drive it and drive it. What I've been talking about is consistency.
If you're going to speak effectively, you have to know way more than you're talking about.
And so to become fearless, why not find some time every day to practice becoming fearless?
Rule number 5, build your own identity.
Because most of us can't see ourselves in people, so then we try and fit ourselves into the boxes that we do see. So it's by a philosopher and writer named Cooley. And he said that today, I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. And just let that blow your mind for a moment. It's so powerful. I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. So we live in this perception of a perception of ourselves. Hence, my identity is made by what my parents think I should be. My identity is made up by what my college or university thinks I should achieve. While you're living in that bubble and that echo chamber, getting to what you really want to do is impossible. And often the advice I give to people today is fast forward where you are, look at yourself in 10, 15, 20 years' time and ask yourself the question, is that where I want to be? If you're in a company, look at the person who's 20 years ahead of you and ask yourself, is that where I want to be? If you're in a startup, look at where other startups have got to in similar roles and go, is that where I want to be? And if the answer is no, then you need to find a new path.
Rule number 6, experiment.
I think the big thing is we all are looking for role models when we're growing up. Like I feel like we all had someone we looked up to. And I was just fortunate, and I have to owe it to fortune and grace that I was so fortunate that when I was 18, one of my role models became a monk. Because my role models were celebrities, CEOs, entrepreneurs, incredible people who were achieving a lot in the world. But when I met him, I got to meet someone who was truly happy. And I think we meet a lot of people who have a lot of money, who have a lot of success at a young age, but you rarely meet someone who's truly happy. And I think everyone who's listening right now or watching will be able to remember a time when they felt they met someone who is happy. And I'm sure that's a rare memory, but it exists. And I was so captivated by that happiness that I felt this person was experiencing that I was like, I want that. You know, and you feel that. Like, I always say that it's always the common denominator in the room. If you're in a room with someone who has millions of followers, you'll be like, oh, I want that. And if you're in the room with someone who has a yacht, you'll be like, oh, I want a yacht. And if someone lives in a fancy home, you'll be like, oh, I want a fancy home. Like, we always want what we feel in the room. Like, the person who has the most in the room becomes the most desirable. But for me, I was so fortunate to be in a room where someone was happy, and that became the most desirable thing. And I was just seeing around me, I was aware that I was looking at people around me who had money but were sad, who had the love of everyone in the like relationships, whatever, like the best looking partners, whatever, and they still were sad. And I was just looking around me at 18 and observing that I couldn't meet someone who's really happy apart from this guy. And so it's like, I want that. So I ended up spending all my summer holidays from aged 18 to 22, half of them in bars, steakhouses, and working in the world of finance in London, and the other half living as a monk in India. So I call it my first ever split test, or my A/B test, where I was literally like, I'm gonna live the paradox. Like, I'm gonna go from living up large, like, you know, having fun, having the best relationships, drinking, going out, whatever it is, and I'm gonna compare that to the opposite. And I can totally say by doing that experiment 4 years later, I was convinced that the experiment of living as a monk was more meaningful, more purposeful, and made me more happy. So I was like, it's a no-brainer. So that's how at an early age, it was just an experiment. And that's why my consistent recommendation to anyone listening is experiment with stuff, like try stuff out, go and live it for a week, live it for a weekend. Don't just think about it in your head. Like, get out of your head and get into action. So if I just thought about it, I probably wouldn't have done it. But getting to experiment with it taught me so much.
Rule number 7, detach.
When you talk about detachment,
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
like, that I think is one of the hardest things that we face today.
It is 100%, and one of the ways we were trained, and I'm not recommending this to anyone watching. I'm just sharing how much we are obsessed and addicted to the body. We were trained to not look in the mirror.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't look in a mirror for like 3 years.
Wow.
Right? Like effectively.
No way.
Effectively, yeah. As in, I looked in the mirror now and again when I had to shave my head or like whatever. Like,
right.
But you don't look in a mirror to look at your appearance. I'm not saying that, I don't recommend that before you go to work tomorrow or anything like that, but just listen to the principle carefully.
You're going to get a...
yeah.
Jay, I can't even...
Yeah.
What do I look like?
Yeah, what do I look like?
No, I'm just-
So the reason is, and that's the reason why monks have shaved heads too, because you focus less on your physical appearance. You spend less time on your physical appearance. What that allows you to do is it literally dissolves your understanding of your physical presence, which means all you have to deal with is the inside. Just think about how much attention it takes to keep ourselves well groomed, to take care of ourselves, to our ego and attachment to how good we look in the day. And I have it too, right? We all have it. Like, I'm not saying I'm detached from that. But what I'm saying is that we were trained in the belief that if you're able to switch off and close your eyes, why do we close our eyes when we meditate?
Right.
It's because it detaches us from the physical presence of where we are so that we can go inside.
Rule number 8, don't waste your time.
Imagine you wake up every day with $86,400 in your bank account. And at the end of the night, it's all gone, whether you spent it or not. And then the next day, you get another $86,400. What would we do with it? Every day, 86,400 seconds are deposited into your life account. At the end of the day, once they're all used up, you get a new 86,400 seconds. We would never waste it if it was money, so why do we waste it when it comes to time? Those seconds are so much more powerful than dollars, because you can always make more dollars, you can't always make more time.
Rule number 9, amplify positivity.
I feel like we give our toxic relationships and negativity so much energy. We're like for example, in your comment section on Instagram, for anyone who's on social media, for everyone who's on social media, you could pinpoint the one negative comment out of 100 positive comments. And we all do it. We amplify the negative. And you see it all the time. And we do the same in our lives, where we sit here talking about all the toxicity. And so for me, it's like, I can either spend all my energy trying to convince that one person to love me, or I can reply to the people that love me already, and they'll love me more because they already engaged with me, and they're going to feel so happy that I responded to them. And I think this is a great, simple tip for everyone who's listening, is just when you respond to positivity in your life, it just increases. When you respond to the negativity in your life, it just increases. And so trying to get someone to like you and defend yourself and control how they feel about you, it wastes and drains so much energy. And you could use all that energy for the people that love you.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is choose people around you wisely.
When we were put out on the streets with nothing but had to fend for ourselves. And you recognize how you can actually live with very little, and how you need very little to get by. Whether it was fasting, like not being able to eat for several days or drink for several days, you recognize how grateful you are for what you do have. And so these mini experiments that are very extreme, that I'm not saying anyone has to do, and I'm not recommending anyone at home to do them. All I'm trying to say is that the body is like a vehicle. We have to take care of it. Just as you have a nice car, you got to take care of that nice car. But if you don't feed the driver, that car's not going anywhere. And so many of us have become more addicted to the vehicle than we have to the driver inside. And so the way of tapping into that driver inside is spend time with people who know their driver really well. And that's why monks were such a big part of my growth, because you meet people who have no agenda, want nothing from you, want nothing of the world, and are not trying to get somewhere. Like there's no win-win. It's only win for you. Like there's no win in it for them. And being around the energy of realized people who have that realization, who've been with their consciousness for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, that's a huge part of it.
Now I have a special bonus clip from Jay on how to stop comparing yourself to others that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1. How can you amplify positivity today? Number 2, where do you need to stop wasting your time? And number 3, how can you help somebody this week? And if you made it this far in the video, I want to celebrate you too. Give me a #believe down in the comments as well.
There's a famous 2008 study in which monkeys were placed in glass cages side by side and prompted with the simple task of handing the scientists a pebble. In exchange for correctly following instructions, one of the monkeys was handed a cucumber as a reward, which she was perfectly happy to accept until she noticed that the other monkey received a grape, i.e. a sweeter, yummier treat. Shocked over this inequality, she literally threw that cucumber at the scientist and rattled her cage in protest. As Theodore Roosevelt once wisely said, comparison really is the thief of joy. And yet it feels impossible to avoid. It's in equal measure primal as displayed by the monkeys as it is destructive. It's that controversial fire that ignites conversations everywhere from YouTube comments to Instagram comments about relationships, careers, online dating through to body image. From the size of our bank balances, to the size of our cars, to the size of our homes, to the length of our resumes. It seems like we're addicted to comparison, and it's just not good for us. The interesting thing is, we've always compared ourselves. Now it's just amplified and magnified. Social media has given us access to comparison 24/7. We used to only hear about the successes and failures of people we personally knew. Now we hear about everyone all of the time. Not only that, but we all know we only share the best parts, making everyone else feel like they're not being enough, doing enough, or living enough. So just because someone's life, job, body, car, whatever it is, looks better on social media, doesn't mean they aren't dealing with their own problems and insecurities. So instead of wishing that our Instagram profiles have more likes, followers, and adventure, we can focus on building more memories. FOMO doesn't exist because we're not happy with what we're doing. It's because we think someone is happier with what they're doing. Research has found that comparison breeds envy, low self-esteem, low confidence, depression, anxiety, and even makes us lose trust in the people close to us. So it's pretty simple. Unfollow the accounts that don't make you feel good. Spend less time on apps and your devices. Don't wake up and go to sleep with the phone in your hand. And I know it's ironic because you're hearing this through a screen. But choose to follow the messages and the accounts that bring you alive. Comparison really breeds competition and makes you miss out on collaboration. Remember, your competition isn't other people. Your competition is your procrastination, your ego, the unhealthy food you're consuming, the knowledge you neglect, the negative behavior you're nurturing, and the lack of creativity. Compete against that. The only thing you should compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday.
If you want to see the top 10 I did on Mel Robbins, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
If you notice that you daydream about being a writer, if you notice that you daydream about starting a tech company, if you notice you daydream about building bridges, follow your curiosity. And you can do that a number of ways.